This is Shadows in the Peaks, a Legends of the Five Rings actual play from Stories with Dice. If you're enjoying our actual plays, please subscribe to Stories with Dice so you never miss an episode. Don't forget to rate and review us. It really helps others discover the podcast. Follow us on social media to stay updated. You'll find the relevant links in the description of each episode.
We were so enjoying Tony, there's a lot of singing today, I've realized.
Yes, he was just singing the final countdown by Europe. Was it Europe, or were you doing the Leibach version?
Oh, no, Europe. There was a very nasty Spanish version, but I'm not going to sing that one.
No, you should definitely sing that one. I want to hear the nasty Spanish version.
Eurovision all over again, right?
Oh, no.
Here, I'll pause the recording, okay?
No.
Okay, the recording is paused. Tell me. Tell me what it is.
I don't believe you, sir. Well, welcome back to another non-musical edition of Stories with Dice. As always, I am joined by, we'll do it differently, Marco, Tony, Charlotte, and Scott. Hello, everyone.
You have to give their titles.
Hello.
Yes.
The titles.
Yes.
Well, apparently, We've got Mr. Marco, we've got Tony, CBO, and CSO.
What does that stand for?
Oh, what does that stand for?
Chief Business Officer and Chief Sexy Officer.
We've got Charlotte, the CTO.
Chief Time Officer.
Scott, CRO.
The Chief Relaxing Officer.
And weirdly, I've been changed to CCO.
Chief Creative Officer.
And CGM.
Chief GM.
Okay, right, well, clearly we know that Marco has far too much time on his hands.
These just random nonsense that pops into my head.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, anyway, you've been introduced to all of us, so yeah, you know who we are anyway. So if you don't know who we are and you're starting here, go back to the beginning and start again. So we've just left off. The group have managed to get hold of, I should say, on the way to Shiro Zurui at last. They've come across some gribbly kind of bandit types who seem to be infected with some kind of like shadowiness and sort of gribbeliness around the face and eyes, of warts and pus and dribbling. And in short order, they managed to make good of an ambush, apparently, with the wonderful help of Agasha Yame blasting what would have been a horrendous amount of rock and wood onto the group. Saved everyone from having to make sort of rolls to avoid a lot of crushing damage. So well done. But you're now left with these two dead bodies on the path and potentially a body up, if anyone fancies climbing up the side of a mountain side to go and have a look.
I might do that.
I want to burn them.
Okay. I mean, you can burn them.
Is climbing athletics?
It is.
I'll climb and have a look.
As long as you've got athletics, that's fine. You can do it.
Okay.
Are you going to toss it down so we can burn it too?
Yeah, sure. I'll kick it down. I'm not going to touch it.
Don't touch it. It's bad for you. Okay, so Akira's going to go and climb up the side of the mountainside. Not a problem. It just requires a bit of concentration on your part. You find the person above you was quite a frail old person, and it looks like they had sort of like rocks and stuff ready to go to fall on whoever it might be. When you kind of like kick her over, she appears to be in her sort of like 70s, maybe late 60s, early 70s. A real frail old woman. But she's also got these pustules and sort of like this dark kind of like hatching on her neck and up her face. And she's got all these boils and sort of like cold sores and stuff all around her face and up her nose and into her eye.
No, I feel terrible. I just killed a 70-year-old woman, someone's grandmother.
She was already dead.
Yeah, you want to kick her over the edge?
Yeah.
You kick the grandmother down over the edge.
Kick a granny when she's down.
I mean, she kind of like hits a couple of rocks on the way. There's a couple of like broken bones and sort of like a snap neck as it kind of hits the floor on the path.
Is there anything else up here?
You have a look around. They don't seem to have any kit or gear or anything like that. Everything they seem to have had was on them. So there's no rucksacks. There's nothing. You'd expect if someone was going to do that, they might pile all their stuff up here, do the ambush, and then come back to it. There isn't anything like that here at all. You do notice, though, there is a lot of sort of like game trails and paths that kind of like crisscross up here. So you imagine that they could probably travel around here without too much notice.
So there are no footprints, human footprints.
Make a hunting roll.
It's just game? Okay. I'll make a hunting roll. That's lovely.
Difficulty is going to be, well, we'll say, let's go with 12. I quite like a difficulty of 12.
Does my trailblazing emphasis count? Or no?
Sure. Yeah, because, why not? Why not? You can have an extra +2 to that. Well, 23 is going to do it. Right, well, you do find indeed some footprints. It looks like 3 people came this way quite recently, going further to the north, into the trees, and up through more boulders and sort of like rocks.
Is that in the direction of Shiro?
Kind of. It kind of matches sort of like so you've got the path that kind of winds up around the mountainside, and the paths kind of like follow above them to a degree.
Okay.
So it's in the general direction.
I'll climb down and let the group know that I found tracks up there leading north.
Leading to castle.
Perhaps.
So Yame, you definitely can tell that they are showing signs of corruption.
Does anybody want to take a closer look at any of these people before I put them to the torch to cleanse
Just from
them?
thinking about the footprints, did you say they were heading to the north or coming from the north?
Coming from the north.
So coming from the castle rather than heading towards it?
Possibly, yes. Which could mean that we're in for a nasty surprise when we arrive.
Okay, well, you've now got these 3 bodies. Now, I take it none of you want to go through their belongings because, nasty. The only person that could potentially do it, Hironobu, you have got your few servants that are following you around. They potentially could do it if you ordered them to, but they're not particularly putting themselves out there to do anything like that. Anything you want to do, Tony, or are you... No. In which case, Ayame, you by all means can consume them with fire. That's fine.
And I shall do so.
You don't need to roll anything. You just commune. You just knock off a spell slot for fire, and you can consume all 3 of them.
Purge the taint from this land.
You do indeed. Okay.
We continue to find sources of corruption.
Seems like we're on the right path.
Yeah, and although we are not following the advisory notes of do not engage corrupted forces without preparation.
We did not engage, they engaged with us.
And we were entirely prepared.
Well put, Ayami-san and Hiroshi-san.
As you continue into the peak, you can see sort of like you kind of like go out of the mountains and then further down into sort of like some valleys. You can see there's a lot of like rice paddies and stuff in these valleys, and it seems to hide a lot of things from the main road. You'd never guess that it was actually quite fertile in these lands. As you kind of make your way through and into the sort of, I guess, the paths as you kind of lead between the valleys up into the mountains again, you kind of come across more of these sort of like streams coming from the mountains. And as you kind of get closer, see this scene, a path which kind of follows the sort of like streams heading towards a keep or a castle, a Shiro in the distance. It's again of the same sort of colors that you would expect from the dragon. It's sort of like a sandstone kind of walls with emerald green rooftops emblazoned with the dragon symbol on the side. As you get closer, you can see that this is the ancestral home of the Zurui family, nestled high in the mountains. It's a stronghold both as a fortress, and you know there is also some mystical monks that call this place home. So you make your way towards it, and you can see that it's quite well defended. It'd be very difficult to get an army up here, and even if you did, you'd have to go through these long sort of stretches of roads which have got, I guess, rivers either side, flowing streams, rocky outcrops. As you get closer, you can see there are troops on the walls. The gates are themselves open to the main keep, and you can make out small buildings just along the edges of the keep, which is sort of like the village of Shiro Zurui.
And what time of day is it?
It's kind of getting towards evening. As you kind of get closer, I guess, Hiroshi, you're up front again.
Hiroshi will be in front.
You can see a couple of the samurai are making their way out of the gate to come towards you. Both of them have got yari and traditional sort of like wakizashi and katana on, both wearing heavy armor, it appears, as they kind of come towards you. As they see you, they do a gentle bow. Well met, my friends. What business do you have in Shiro Zurui?
Hiroshi will swing himself off his horse.
Apparently we're here to keep your paths clean, your roads clear of bandits.
They look at both of you and say, we have, of course, as everywhere does, we have bandits. What do you mean of this? He says, he looks you over. Phoenix.
You have 3 less bandits now.
Well, thank you very much, my lord Unicorn.
Corrupted ones at that.
Again, he narrows his eyes at you, says, there's no taint here.
That, my friend, is a misstatement.
Anyway, what do you really want here? Other than, he says in a sarcastic tone, keeping our roads safe.
Your magistrates, and stay forward.
He almost like laughs, which is a bit of breaking protocol. It's not the usual done thing. It's the sort of thing you expect from a crab or something. And he says, you are magistrates?
Please, and I ask somebody in my retinue to show the scroll.
Yeah, the person comes and hands it to them. They kind of open it up, and he kind of like reads it. He hands it and kind of like bows a bit deeper and says, my lord magistrates, I was unaware that you were coming. How can we have helped you?
First, you will treat us with respect. Second, you will take us to the castle.
But before any of that occurs, you will apologize for your disrespectful greeting.
He looks over at you. There's sort of like this little ember of sort of like annoyance in his eye, but he kind of like he bows low and says, I did not mean any disrespect, and I'm very grateful that you are keeping the road safe for our lord.
You may proceed.
Please come with me. And he then shows you towards the gates. You can see as you go through the gates, there's another set of gates, and you kind of go through the murder part of the keep. You can see there are 3 or 4 guards above you, all sort of like looking down at you. And you go through the main gate, which is a double reinforced wooden gate carved with dragons and Yojimbo symbols. They take you into a central courtyard, which is this big open space, and you can see there's a large statue of the family's founder, Zurui Ito, and he's sort of like he's probably about 15 foot, maybe 18 foot tall statue of this gentleman in sort of like full regalia. He's kind of half kneeling with the katana wakizashi to his left, and he's almost kind of judging everyone that seems to come through that gate. The guard says, please wait here and I will get my lords. I'll be back shortly, he says as he wanders off. And you're left kind of like in this kind of courtyard.
I didn't realize it was so easy to ruffle the feathers of dragons.
I didn't realize dragons had feathers.
Sometimes with scales so soft they appear feathery.
Perhaps these dragons are more like cats. Do most of the people here that we see look normal?
Yeah, they all look like you'd expect. They're all sort of like lower tier family vassals of the Dragon Clan. Almost all of them look like they're from the Zurui family, as opposed to like Miramoto or anything like that. Make a perception roll from people if you would like to spot anything.
Is this an unskilled roll?
Yeah, if you don't have perception.
As always, Hiroshi's busy staring at his shoes.
Kira has an 18.
Nice, okay. Yeah, I mean, pretty much. We'll wait for Tony to roll.
There you go.
Well, so...
18.
Yeah, so Hironobu and Akira are looking around. You can see the majority of the people here are from the Zurui family. You can see that as you sort of like your left-hand side, there are like a set of shrines and what looked like a monastery built into the left-hand side of the of Shiro Zurui. You can see people going about their daily business either in prayer or going to and from rituals or some kind of training or whatever they're doing. To the right-hand side, you can see what looked like living quarters and lots of military stuff. And it seems like the keep is kind of divided left and right between the kind of ascetic sort of monk stuff and the military stuff. I think someone I think it might have been Charlotte actually. You asked about Shiro Zurui in a previous episode. And you know that it's known for producing a lot of Yojimbo. So a lot of the Kitsuki dragon usually have a Zurui Yojimbo with them. Much like the Kikita are or the lion might have someone who's really, really good at sort of protecting their charges. This is what they're known for. As well as producing a lot of monks who query and question things. They don't really come up with any answers. They just have a lot of questions. And that's what the Shiro Zurui is known for. But you're waiting around. You don't see anyone weird or strange. What you do see is a gentleman who is really large. And as soon as you see him, this is both Hironobu and Akira, you recognize him as a Crab Clan samurai. He's probably about 6'3", 6'4", and he's really powerfully built. He kind of sees you and waves and kind of like makes a beeline over to you. He says, "Hello, how are you all?" He's got like this really kind of booming voice. And in fact, he comes over to you, Akira, and goes, "Hey, cousin, how are you?" The crab calls sort of people from the Mantis clan their cousin because that's where they're originally from. What are you doing this far north? I see you with some... Oh, there's a lot of different... Oh, he kind of looks over at Hiroshi and goes, "We've got a unicorn, a crane, and a phoenix." He's really, really kind of breaking any kind of protocol that you would normally expect. But you kind of expect that from the Crab Clan. And he seems quite young. He's probably about 17, maybe 18. And he kind of says, "What brings you lot here, if I can ask?" He almost like forgets. And sort of like, "If that's okay."
You may not ask.
He looks at you, he kind of like scratches his chest and says, "Well, if you want a game of cards or dice later on, give me a shout."
Or if I perhaps want to ask you about what you may know about the shadow-tainted, could I give you a shout?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. He sort of like stops, bows, and then he kind of walks off, going to the military side of the castle. It doesn't take long for you to sort of wait for a person to turn up. This is a older lady. She's probably in her 60s, wearing a very traditional sort of dragon kimono, and she says, "Good evening. I am Muramoto Yuna. I am the Hatamoto to my lord, Zurui. I understand you have come here on business as magistrates."
Hiroshi sort of stands back and lets the others do the talking, because he's already upset people too much.
Akira says that is correct, and then he bows.
"How can we help you?"
Perhaps Hironobu can explain this better than I can.
We've come here following traces of corruption. We engaged 3 people that show very strong signs of this corruption, not a few hours from here, and we were wondering if there have been more signs around the area.
"We have seen the odd taint, this is true," but she kind of looks at you and says, "Would this have anything to do with the missing samurai that have been, well, that have kind of happened within the last 3 weeks?"
Are you referring to patrols?
"Indeed, we have plenty of people out looking into things and understanding things, and we hear things. We have people within the lower tea ceremony and the upper tea ceremony housing. So please, we would very much like to hear."
Yeah, it might be related. We would be very grateful if you can show us where these disappearances happen.
"Well, shall we get you settled into the keep before we do that? Perhaps maybe some food. I wouldn't want you to think that we didn't have any manners up here in the mountains."
Of course not.
"Please." And she sort of looks you all over and kind of like casts an eye over you and says, "I'm sure we can find you suitable accommodation for however long you intend to stay." And she smiles and she sort of like bows to you and says, "Please, follow me." And she kind of steps inside in time with you, Hironobu. So Muramoto Yuna takes you all to the keep, where she kind of sets you up in your own individual rooms, which are, sparsely but suitable for your needs. Everything's in the livery of the Dragon Clan, but within sort of about an hour and a half of being there, you very much go for a wash, get rid of all the sort of like travel stains from your travel the whole day, plus any kind of blood or anything else that might be in your kimonos or anything from your combat, and you come back to your room, which is no longer dragon, but is about as close as they can probably get to phoenix colors, crane colors, mantis colors, and unicorn colors. So it's enough to make you feel vaguely at home, but clearly they're not meant to have a lot of guests here. It's not the sort of thing they have. You're all left with a small note to say that could you all please be ready for this evening's meal? But that gives you about an hour and a half of contemplation and prayer before food, and someone will come and collect you.
Yeah, I want to meditate because I'm very low in void points.
Same here.
Cool. Well, you guys can make some meditation rolls then in that case.
Yeah.
I think just a standard roll.
And do we recover wounds? Because I have 2 points of wounds since we battled in the watchtower.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
That would have gone by now, so you've had a couple of days of travel.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. You can get rid of that.
Should I roll then a meditation? I got 21.
21. I think that's more than enough.
Do I recover 1 or 2?
I think it's 1 unless you go for a raise, in which case it's 2. Let me just double check.
But if I raise...
What's your rank in meditation?
1.
Okay. Simplest means that so it's a void roll versus target number of 20 to recover 1 void.
So I got 1 more.
Yeah. If you want to fast and meditation, which means you go for we're going for food and water per day, then it reduces the target number down. But yeah, for if you want to go for a successful raise, or if you have rank 3 in meditation, you can restore up to 2 void points.
Did I
How
get
did
2?
you get on? No, because you didn't go for any actual raises.
Okay.
When you went for
No.
What about you, Charlotte?
I rolled, 29?
Yep, that's fine.
And I do have 3 ranks,
3.
so I do get both points back.
You do. So you both take sort of like half hour, 45 minutes to kind of meditate, and you get your void back.
I will also meditate to get some void points back.
Okay, so if you want to make a meditation roll as well, Marco.
Yes, sir. That is exactly what I want to do.
Difficulty 20.
Oh, no, I got a 14.
So it's been a bit of a day. You
Quite a day, yeah.
Quite get there. You just can't quite get to that point.
I'm distracted by the 70-year-old woman that tried to murder us in a landslide that I ended up killing. Yes.
Yeah, it bothers you somewhat. You can't get it out of your memory or out of your mind. So you'll have your food. You'll have your time to meditate or do whatever you wish to do within your hour and a half. And a gentleman comes along and says, "Please come with me." And he takes you to a main hall. Inside the main hall, you can see there is a number of low tables set up. You were brought to the far end of the table and sat with 3 seats in between you all. And you are essentially at the head of the table. So if this was a wedding, you'd be at the head table. You can see a whole selection of people who are then brought in and sat down at the lower end of the tables, and then with a little bit of pomp and ceremony, but not a huge amount, 3 people come in. You can see this gentleman, who is the daimyo of the Zurui family, Zurui Tsutomo, and he is followed by a woman who is probably in her 30s, and then a younger boy or younger man in his sort of like early 20s, and they all come and sit down in between where you've all been sitting. It looks like it's the daimyo and his 2 eldest children. As they all kind of like sit, the old lady Muramoto Yuna welcomes Zurui Totomi, Zurui Aya, who is the eldest daughter, and Zurui Renji, who is the younger brother. And they all sit, at which point food is brought, drinks are brought. You can see on the far end, that Crab Clan samurai. You can also see a bunch of others sort of like spattered around. It appears that food and drink are kind of given you all, but no one seems to talk. It just seems to be very quiet. They're all kind of taking their food in quite quiet circumstances. How many of you do you think would have spent any time with any kind of monks? And I'm guessing Ayame probably has. What about Akira, Hironobu, and Hiroshi?
Not so much.
I don't think Hiroshi would have.
Okay. So if all 3 of you can make an etiquette roll, that'd be great. Difficulty is just going to be a standard 10.
I get an 8.
Okay.
If you're rolling something untrained, what is it you roll?
You click, there is a check.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So Yeah. So it would be...
Akira got an 18.
I think it's intelligence, I think. No, it's... Well, it's not intelligence. What am I doing? Ed, you're a moron.
Hey, you be nice to our GM.
All right, sorry. Ed, you're great. It's awareness. Make an awareness roll and click on it to say that it's untrained. Right, so Akira, you got an 18. You and Hiroshi kind of make sure that you don't talk. You kind of sit there, you eat your food, you basically follow the rest of the etiquette. They're very much following that of the Togashi monks. Hironobu, you kind of like ask a couple of questions, sort of like in the middle of the sort of like, so, you know, what's the next thing to do? You can either speak to either the younger man or the younger woman. Who would you like to talk to? Which one of those two do you want to interrupt, essentially?
When he tries talking, can I just put my finger up to my mouth to...
Yep.
To the woman. I just roll to see to whom.
Yeah, you sit next to him and you're kind of like, so, and then you can see that I was like, kind of thing.
I keep on stuffing rice in my mouth.
Yeah, you're like, well, what's the... Yeah. She sort of like half smiles and she sort of puts her hand not on you, but she puts it just sort of to the side of you, and she sort of shakes her head and then points over at Akashi Ayame and then puts her fingers to her lips and sort of motions to eat and then continues to sort of eat herself.
Yeah, I will just eat.
You eat and you pretty much do that all in silence. The food is brought. It's very weird. All you can hear is the swishing of kimonos and the placing down of wooden cups or china cups and bamboo plates, that kind of thing. Or the sounds of sort of like the chopsticks touching the sort of like wood on wood. So it's very, very quiet. You can't hear much because where you are located, you're sort of like in the central part of Shiro Zurui. It's quite quiet, and you imagine that if you were to meditate in this space, you think it would probably be quite easy to sort of like nod off. Once the food is all done and dusted, Zurui Tsutomu sort of like gets up half, kind of kneels towards you all and says, "Magistrates, I understand you have some pressing business here, and you have mentioned something about Shadowlands taint and corruption. I would like to hear, please, tell me, how can I help you? And how can the Zurui family help you?"
We have been following the trail of the taint that appears to be happening here in the Dragonlands. We would like to investigate further the situation, and everything we have been following takes us to the area around the castle. We would like to know where the patrols, the samurais that were patrolling the area, disappear. Better understand how is it possible that this taint is here, coming from the Shadowlands.
We were just outside your castle, waylaid by 3 individuals who were tainted in such a manner.
We had to burn them to avoid that the taint spreads on the land and taints everything.
As you should. Only through fire can you purge corruption.
Yeah, Akashi Ayame showed us the proper way.
He bows at you and says, "I am much honored, Gasha-sama."
One of them was a 70-year-old woman.
An old woman, you say?
Their tracks came from this location.
You saying that there are corrupted individuals within my village?
Maybe not within your village, your lordship, but certainly within a day's ride.
Well, what do you plan to do, my magistrates?
Do you have reports of any missing individuals? Perhaps someone's grandmother?
We can, of course, find out. He kind of claps his hands and says, "Clear the room." And a lot of the other samurai, which are kind of like towards the end of the other tables, kind of get up, they all kind of bow, and they kind of like wander off out, leaving just a few people here. And he says, "Bring out the maps." And quite swiftly, you can see some of his confidants and stuff. His younger brother kind of comes over and sort of like brings out a map of the Zurui lands, much like the map that you kind of have, but it's sort of just as sort of like the area around Shiro Zurui, down into the mountains, and then it kind of stops at Early Dawn Shrine. So really, they're kind of like lands, if you want. It's the sort of like the mountain ranges that's in the middle of the map that we have. And he kind of like says, "Well, these are my lands," and they're kind of divisioned off into different sort of like smaller parcels of land with various people looking after each of them, and says, the lands that you were talking about are directly below, and they are my lands. We have 2 villages, which are nearby. We have a few smattering of farmlands. I don't profess to know all my vassals. I'm not sure how we would go about finding out who that is. I guess that as magistrates, you are skilled at doing such things.
When was the last time you had patrols go to those villages?
I mean, they might have their own Yuriki, which is a sort of like a equivalent of an under-sheriff kind of thing. They kind of do the equivalent of the law enforcement. Villages themselves don't always have samurai, because unless there's something very special about that village, it's just kind of left to the head man of the village, and then they kind of generally have either a very low-level samurai or a kind of higher-ranking peasant, sort of like who will take on that role of being the sort of like the sheriff or whatever it might be. He says, we check every now and then, but since the missing patrols, and he basically points, all the patrols are just outside his area, so towards the sort of like East Road Tea House, as opposed to inside his lands. He says that all the kind of like patrols that went missing, or the people that have gone missing, have all been just on the edge of the land of the Zurui family. In fact, some has happened on the other side. Could all of you please make investigation rolls?
I don't have.
So you can just use perception then in that case.
Have an emphasis in interrogation. Can I use that?
Are you going to interrogate the...
Sure am.
Okay. All right, well, in that case...
I have a 27.
That's another thing entirely. Okay. Right. How's that going to go? Charlotte. Let's have a look. What is your status and what is your glory?
My status is 1.
Mm-hmm.
And my glory is also a 1.
So he has a status of 6. Cool. Can you please make an interrogation roll? Your difficulty is 40.
Jesus Christ.
How well can you blag this?
All right, here we go. 27.
Cool. Okay, well, Hironobu, Hiroshi, you're like, no. You're having a conversation. Hiroshi's still kind of looking wistfully for the last of the food which has disappeared. Yeah, it looks like he is purposefully minimizing where the things are happening to just on the boundary of his lands. Obviously, you can't tell why that's the case, but he's very clearly making that statement to say that it isn't happening here. It's not part of his fault, or the fault of the Zurui family, or the Zurui clan. He's a good samurai. He basically does all the things he should do. This is an outside influence which is just kind of coming in. That's his general take about how he says it. You definitely know that he's trying to not cast any kind of like blame on himself or his family, or indeed his duty to his lords. It's very difficult to like kind of say otherwise, because that would be a massive breach. You could do it if you wanted to, but that could see a significant loss of honor and glory to yourselves if you were to do that.
He's not saying the whole thing.
He's definitely not saying the whole thing.
A lie by omission is still a lie. I appreciate the stance that you are taking, and I do not mean to press too forcefully, but as all of this is happening on the edge of your lands, are you not worried that it is going to encroach upon your lands, therefore undermining your entire clan's integrity, threatening sacred sites that may be in your lands, eroding the trust of the family with the rest of Rakugan? There are so many things that could go wrong if this is not addressed and treated with the proper attention.
He looks at you for a second and says, well, I'm very glad that you and the rest of your magistrates are here to protect me and the Dragonlands from such a threat. I am very grateful that you will look into this and sort out any kind of problems that are happening in my lands. And in fact, he sort of like bows sort of quite low and says, I'm more than happy to offer anything that I can to aid you to wipe out and destroy this corruption within my lands. Clearly, my Lord Togashi and the daimyo of the Kitsuki have a lot of faith in your abilities to do that. And I can see why all of you have been chosen to do such a thing. He sort of like says, in which case, I will 100% support whatever it is you need. You have anything and everything that I can give you at your disposal. In fact, I do not expect you to fail. And he basically gives you another short bow.
In an effort to make this as efficient as possible, can you send 2 detachments to the villages, have them scout around and come back while we start to gather some information closer to the keep?
Of course I can. In fact, I will get my daughter to deal with it. He looks over at the woman and says, Arya-san, will you do this? Arya-san says, yes, father, of course I will do that. I can do that now. He says, no, first thing in the morning is more than fine. And she sort of like says, yes, father, of course I can do that. He looks at you and says, anything else?
I don't believe so at this moment.
He looks over at the rest of you. Does she speak to you as your leader?
She speaks for us.
She speaks wisely.
She does. You are wise to have her as your leader.
Does Akira bristle at that at all?
He doesn't believe in leaders.
He says, is there anything else I can do for you?
Can you provide us with a room to center our investigation out of? And access to any records that we may?
He says, Yuma. She says, my lord. That's the old woman. While they are here, you can have her to help.
That will do nicely.
Anything else?
We require a food taster.
Of course. Do you think that you are at risk?
Would not have asked for one if I thought otherwise. Would not be logical.
Of course. I will give you one of my own.
That would be agreeable.
Anything else from yourselves? He looks at Hironobu and Hiroshi.
Hiroshi smiles. Merely stabling for my steed.
Consider it already done. In which case, I bid you good night, and may the Kamis bless your investigation. And hopefully you bring this to a close very quickly.
May the Kami bless your house.
Everyone gets up, and he leaves, leaving you alone with Muramoto Yuma. Says, please, come with me. And she sort of like takes you all to where your rooms are. Just around the corner from your rooms is another separate room, which she kind of says, I will get this room set up for you. Please, feel free. And she sort of like gets a couple of servants to put a chair down or some like cushions down along with a table. And she says, if you need anything, please, just ask. And then they shut the shoji screens and they disappear, leaving you alone together.
Why do I feel like we have placed one foot in a bear trap and been asked to hop?
In fact, well done, Ayame-san. I was wondering if there's any way to detect the corruption in an individual or in an area. I don't know the ways of the Sugenja, so I'm wondering if it is wise for us to stay here.
Well, we don't have anywhere else to stay.
Can you see if the corruption is here already?
There is a way, I believe. Is there not, Ed? There is. It's earth spells that can see that. What's your earth? What's your earth spells like?
I got like earth stagnation and elemental ward and commune.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, you could probably do that. There is. Let's see if I can get my brain in gear. Yeah, you could probably commune with the earth to understand whether there's corruption nearby.
Very nearby.
I mean, usually stuff like Jade Strike, that kind of thing, is the best way to discover corruption. But yeah, that's Void. You'd be able to check whether someone's out of balance within their elements. Anything else you'd like to look at, do you?
Can I do Void?
Yeah, I mean, you can cast any spells. So you can cast Void spells as well.
Commune with Void?
You can indeed.
And hopefully the Void does not commune back?
Yeah, it can quickly turn that way. But mostly it's going to be Earth is the sort of thing you do. You commune with the Earth and they'll be able to tell you whether it was corrupted or not. But you'd have to be quite close to it.
So could I ask if it was like within this household?
You could be basically the further out from the center that you want it, the more successes you're going to require, or the higher the success number will be.
Our immediate vicinity to see if we're like kind of safe where we are now would be low on the difficulty scale.
Yeah, so if you were safe in this room, the difficulty would be like, 10. If it was sort of like an extra sort of 2 or 3 rooms away, then it's going to be in increments like that.
Okay.
So +5. So if you wanted to check the entire castle, you're probably looking at a target number of 50, for example. So it's quite unforgiving.
Gotcha.
Because you're not specifically trained in the way of corruption. If you were sort of like a crab Shigenja, you probably have other ways to do that. And in fact, you might even have like a technique that you have that's part and parcel of your school that would help you do that.
Could I make use of one of our traveling companions to assist with this?
You could. Well, you've got... So the one thing you've noticed, actually, is that Muramoto, she has not really engaged with the Zurui very much. She's been quite quiet, Muramoto Akari, and she's not really said a huge amount. She's kind of like stayed into the background. But you can use her. She can help you.
I would like to do that.
All right. So you're going to try and see if you can... It's probably like a sense, I suppose, is the sort of thing you're going to want to do. How far do you want to go? How big a radius do you want to check?
I would say as much as I can get for keeping it around like the 20 DN mark.
So you're probably looking at sort of maybe a floor or 2 of the castle. Will probably give you that.
And I guess the initial question would be if there is anybody that shows signs of shadow-tainted.
Okay. Well, everyone you've seen has not as yet.
In a household like this, there are so many that are unseen.
There are loads. You probably have to spend a lot of time to just literally stop and watch people. That's what you'd have to do.
Next episode will be all about people watching.
Indeed. Well, so make your roll for Earth. I will do the same. So she's got an Earth of 2.
Do I want to use a void point to help with this?
Well, that's what she's rolled.
We can't see it. All we can see is check or question marks. Yeah, I'm going to use a void point on this.
Okay. You both kind of start doing a ritual, sort of like see if you can sense any kind of corruption within sort of like the next couple of floors, and you don't get anything. It appears that there's at least the 2 floors that you're involved with are not corrupt. There's no corruption that you can find. So you're pretty sure that there's no corruption nearby.
Kami say, ask again later.
Please call later. We're busy right now.
Please try again.
But there is a soft knock out the door.
I guess that is we say, come in.
The door opens. You can see an older gentleman standing outside. Well, he's kneeling outside. He is a servant, and he says, "My lords and ladies, may I present myself? I am Kobayashi Fumio. I've been asked to bring you this." And he comes in and he kind of hands you some drinks and some sweet rolls and says, "If there's anything else I can help you with, please feel free to ask. I'll be just outside if you need anything." Can all of you please make an intelligence roll and or investigation roll, whichever you prefer.
19 for me.
I have a 23.
For everyone who's got more than 10, if you look at the investigative charter, there is part 4, it says known allies. Kobayashi Fumio, Zurui retainer and tunnel warden, familiar with hidden routes and family secrets, which is on the investigative charter. He has just explained that he is Kobayashi Fumio, and he's here to help with anything you want. And I think that seems like a good place to leave it this evening.